Hi guys, this is Rati here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about the kind of books that you can read if you're new to reading, that is if you're a beginner with reading. Now, of course, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, and this is just my personal opinion. Everybody has different preferences. So it might not work for all of you, but I'm confident it will definitely work for some of you since I have quite a bit of reading experience and writing experience as well. But as I said, my word is not really the word of God. So it's just my own opinion. Without much ado, let's begin. So the first kind of books that I think you should read as a beginner with reading are motivational books or self-help books. Now the thing is, if you're new to the whole art of reading, then if you get into too many complex topics and books that have a lot of mixed complex emotions, then it might just get too difficult for you and it might just bog you down. So self-help books or motivational books are a good place to start because the first thing is that the language in these books is generally easy to understand. It's lucid. The words are not very complex. The writing style is simple. And the second thing is that motivational books give you positive and inspirational messages for life, teachings that you can apply to your personal life as well as professional life. For some people, motivational or self-help books have also been game changers, inspired them to such an extent that their whole life has changed for good. So as a beginner with reading, if you read these kind of books, which can have positive implications for your personal development, then I think it is something that will certainly propel you towards reading. I want to give you examples of three self-help books, 3 book recommendations, 3 motivational books that are my all-time favorites. The first book I'd like to recommend is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, the book which I think the kind of book which everybody has heard about. It still remains on the bestseller list of many book sites. The second book I want to recommend is Ikigai, the Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life. Now, this one is also currently on the Amazon bestseller list. The third book I want to recommend is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. Again, a very popular book and one of the best known motivational books of all times. Now, the second kind of books which I think you can read as a beginner in reading are romance novels or love stories. Now, as cliched as it may sound, love is something, that the mere concept of love, that the mere idea of love gives us goosebumps. And there's something about, reading anything about love, be it poetry or fiction or non-fiction, that fascinates us endlessly. As I said, it might sound cliched, but it's true. I think there are very few people, I haven't really met anybody who doesn't like reading love stories or love poetry. Even when we start writing poetry, most of us start with love poetry and some of us are infatuated with writing love poetry all our lives. So I'm not saying, that everybody likes reading romance novels, but I haven't really met those people who don't get fascinated by love stories, even if they claim otherwise. So I just really think that for a beginner in the field of reading, love stories are a great way to start, as I said, because they can really initiate into the whole act of reading. I'm going to give you now a couple of recommendations of my favorite classic romance novels of all times. The first recommendation would be Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Now, this is one of my favorite works. The second would be Love in the Times of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a beautiful, beautiful novel written in magic realism. Third recommendation would be Love Story by Eric Siegel. And the fourth recommendation I would give you is Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. Of course, there are many, many love stories out there, but these are just 4 classic novels that came to my mind that are my favorites, amongst my favorites. Now, of course, I want to issue a word of caution here that when you're reading these classic love stories, it will be challenging in terms of vocabulary, in terms of writing style, because the writing style will be kind of different. It will be sort of somewhat archaic, and these books are not an easy read by any means, but still I think As a beginner with reading, while it's important to start with books, which you can understand easily to establish a certain confidence level, it's also important to gradually, sort of move on to books which challenge your vocabulary so that you can learn something new. So there has to be a mix of books which you understand, books which are in a comfort zone, and books which challenge you. Because if you're always reading stuff that you're in your comfort zone as a beginner, trust me, you will be stuck with reading that comfortable stuff all your life. But if you want to expand your horizons, you have to challenge your thinking. So these classics will help you to develop your vocabulary further and will definitely enrich, your mind and your reading capabilities. Now, some people are of the opinion that, when you're reading a classic, then it's important to know everything about the historical context in which it is said, know everything about, basically everything about everything that the author thought when they were writing it. But I don't agree with that theory. I think, for example, if you're reading Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, then even if you are not really so much familiar with the social and cultural context of that times, the circumstances under which we wrote it, you can still read the book with a blank mind, tabula rasa, and you can appreciate it from your own vantage point of, let's say, 21st century India. You can appreciate it from the point of view of your own life and connect those characters to your own life. Imagine yourself in the shoes of those characters. So I believe in that kind of, imaginative reinterpretation of reading material, which works very well for beginners. Similarly, if you're reading Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell, it's a historical novel. But you don't have to really read it like an English literature student. If you were an English literature student, then you would, make notes about, you would read a lot about the author and the American Civil War and what all was happening that time. But I think if you're just reading for the sheer joy of reading and to develop a reading habit, then your approach can be simple. The third kind of books that I think you should read for if you are a beginner in reading, and I'm slightly digressing here, making a slight digression, because these are not exactly books to be read, but books to be heard. I'm talking about audiobooks. Audiobooks are becoming more and more popular these days, and I think for those people, for those specific kind of beginners in reading, whose interest in reading, let's say, falls between the 0 to 1 category, audiobooks are a great place to start with. Because what happens is that, when you're listening to some interesting story or the plot of a novel in these animated voices with beautiful narration and storytelling, when the rise and fall of emotions is evident in these voices, then you get totally spellbound. And even if you're not a typical reader, even if your interest in reading falls between 0 to 1, you might just be tempted to pick a copy of that book and read the book in physical form. So audiobooks, I think, are great to, initiate your interest in a particular topic, in a particular book, story. Audiobooks acts like teasers. I don't know for other people, but personally, I would not be able to, listen to the entire novel in an audiobook format, like for 3 hours or 4 hours or even more longer. It would be tedious for me, right? So I would just listen to a bit of the beginning, and then if it interests me, then I would pick up a physical book. So I think audiobooks can be great for, turning non-readers into readers. And these days, audiobooks are available on forums like YouTube as well. Amazon has got a special feature for audiobook. It has got an app called Audible, which I think you can subscribe for something as less as 199 rupees per month, and they have a trial session also. So audiobooks, I think, are the next big thing in literature, and I really think that for somebody who is new to reading, audiobooks are a great way to start. So guys, that was it for today. If you like my content, please do press the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you very soon.